Hey, how's it going, YouTube? Today we probably got the last time we're going to update the Dark World deck profile, at least for a little bit. This one is a small world version of the deck. I guess I could place with it at locals. I lost to the eventual winner playing Libromancer Bestial. My hands just never really cooperated with me, which is fine. It's just how the deck is. I feel like this is probably going to be the most consistent version you could play for hand looping, but also having a backup plan. And Nico Main King. Small World's a really powerful card in this deck, as you could bridge out of pretty much anything into anything. So I really like that. Another few things that this deck has consistency issues, so that really just pushed it over. It pretty much made it so I can always see exactly what I needed, and as I said, you could pretty much connect any danger into any Dark World, vice versa, and you can even bridge out of the Nico Main King if you draw it into a starter. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and get into it. So the Dark World names are pretty much all the same. We got 3 Grapha, 3 Rainbow, 3 Genta, 3 Snow, 2 Silva, 2 Cerulli, and then a brown and a beige. So a lot of consideration went into the ratios here. I found myself wanting to cut down on some of the names, but just never really could. Grapha has to be at 3 because he is the requirement for the deck to work, in my opinion, because of a session. So you have to play 3 of him. The consideration was to cut Rainbow down to 2, but you really just want to see it. You don't really want to bridge into it. You don't really bridge out of it. Genta and Snow, like I said in one of my profiles, Snow is still he's still good, but gets worse as the game goes on, obviously, as it should. You really just need to get to it early if your hands are awkward. 2 Silva, 2 Cerulli in case one of them gets Bestialed. You can connect Cerulli into anything as well. You can also connect into Cerulli because of the Danger Bigfoot into Nico Main. So there's a lot of ways to get to all these cards, where some of the redundant search effects like Rainbow are just much weaker. That's it for the Dark World monsters. For the dangers, we are on the 2 copies of Nessie still, 2 copies of Mothman. This one is still pretty controversial in my opinion, just because the tier deck. But if your local doesn't have a lot of them, it's pretty free. But it's also just really good to bridge. 1 Bigfoot, 1 Thunderbird. Let me move these up. 1 Opogo, 1 Chupacabra, 1 Jackalope, and then the honorary danger. So these are my dangers. Pretty much all of them connect into anything that you need in the deck. You can even just simply go from 1, 2, 3 as an example, because the only thing they share is dark. But you never really need to do that. The fact that they all connect Dark Worlds just as another example, going like this into Mothman, into Grapha, Rainbow, whatever, is really powerful. And Catalyzer is still just the honorary danger that whenever you draw it feels really good. So I'm pretty much always going to play Catalyzer. I saw somebody comment on a video of mine that said that Catalyzer should be dead too. The issue is it just doesn't do anything past the first one, obviously. At least all these can still activate and keep going. Otherwise, if it could keep going with Catalyzer, I probably would play multiple. And then for bridges and just cards for the combo, Raven and Nico Main King. So any danger going into a Dark World goes into this for the most part. And then Nico Main King, the way you can bridge out of it is by going into, when I find it, Cerulli, because the only thing they share is 1. So you won't be able to search any Dark World off of this, but you'll be able to search any danger except for, actually no, this one connects to all of them, but so with this you can search any danger. You can also search Catalyzer, that's not Catalyzer. You can also search Catalyzer, because the only thing they'll share is Fiend. But if you need to, if your plays get interrupted, you can go Cerulli into this, because again, the only thing they share is 1. And you can fetch into Bigfoot, because the only thing these guys share are 0. So it just gives you options to get to dangers if your hand's really clunky with a small world package. But that's just like one of the few examples that I've got for you, just like to give a quick one. But that's why Nico Manking's in here, because you can realistically play it now and not brick on it, and you can also put it on the bottom of Saryuja and search it when you're ready. And then Fabled Raven, you can just like bridge into it with pretty much anything. Like you just pick, as an example, you go Danger, Dark World, Fiend. So like you have Dark, Dark, and then Fiend, and then that's how all those connect. So I felt like Raven was a nice thing to just have in the deck if I needed it. I can also go from a Dark World into this, into just a bunch of different ways to get into other cards. So I felt like it was nice to play the one Fabled Raven, because if you just need a way to discard and keep going, this could be the searchable out. And then you have the Nico Main King here, just for the combo in case like the Sylvas get ripped or you have to do some awkward plays. For the spells, 3 gates, 2 Accession, and then the Puppetry and the Archives. So I would highly recommend, if you played this deck, to go ahead and put this down to 1 and just play Foolish Burial Goods, because Goods can be a starter in that case. And you'll never really need to pass the first one, but a card I thought about playing multiples of was Puppetry. Because Puppetry can let you, like if you dump it to the grave, you can banish it to add a Banished Fiend. So like if you have to start early, and you can like get back Graphas and Rainbows and stuff. But other than like the Foolish Burial Goods thing, I think the spell lineup worked really well. I do want to try to fit 2 Puppetry, but that's going to be pretty hard. And we got 2 Small Worlds. You could play 3, but I decided to play Beginning of the End as the 3rd copy, because again, this card just lets you keep going once you start, and like you've gone through everything and you can't really do much. It at least gives you 3 new cards, where Small World is like one of the best starters, where Allure is a +1 in most senses. Well, it's actually just neutral based on how you banish the card, but you have so many darks that like it's redundant because there's so many redundant effects. But Small World is a true -1, but you get any card you need to start or keep going. So that's why we're playing that. And then Allure could be this spot if you really wanted it to be, or this could be the Foolish Burial Goods, but I really like a card that can just let you keep going once you've exhausted almost all your resources. Just give you those last 3 cards. That's why Saryuja is so good, because you get all those extra resources and you get to put back what you don't need. So that's it for the main deck. For the extra deck, still 2 Grapha. Still very important to have the 2, in case you don't get the hand loop or end the turn. You know, if you get Dark Ruler dropleted, you can at least make the second one. Fabled Raven gives us access to Synchros, so I'm playing Baron. There are interesting parts of the turn where you can just, like, if your hand's really good and you've already got access to Saryuja and your combos are flowing, you could just use Saryuja to summon Fabled Raven, not pitch anything, and make Graph with a Graph out of Rainbow into Baron. But you can also, like, you know, pitch 3 cards and one of them be a Silva, make Baron, or you can pitch 4 cards with a Beige and make, you know, Baron. There's a lot of different ways you can make this card in this deck, which is really neat. A lot of the dangers you'll be able to modulate to it. Like if you pitch Jackalope, then Jackalope will go get Nessie, and then it's a 10. So there's a lot of ways to get into it. Another option was Savage Dragon, but Savage Dragon you can't really make until like you've already started. Baron can be the card you make first to help protect. Still the fallback plan of Baguska. Dugaris, Coach King is still crazy. Titanic Galaxy, still no Photon Lord because we're ending on Apollosa. So they need the monster negate. For the links, we still got Cross Sheep. It's still, in my opinion, very good. It's probably just a crutch, honestly. But like it can fix a lot of awkward starts and a lot of like bad sequencing, or just like bad danger hits. IP, Nightmare Phoenix, the Muckraker. Security Dragon, this, in my last profile, I said was going to be an Akashik Magician, or however you pronounce it. But Security Dragon was just ended up being better because it's easier to get off. One Apollosa and one Saryuja. Condense these down a little bit. But the Apollosa and the Saryuja is still like really good. I haven't been playing, as I hit the tripod, I haven't been playing Saryuja as much until recently. But like just being able to put back the dead cards is really nice, like Nico Main King or extra Small World that you draw. But like Saryuja is just crazy powerful. I really do regret not playing it. I've been playing it for the past like 2 weeks, but I haven't updated since then. And Underworld Goddess still to help out the towers, monsters, or cards that are just too big for Dark World to beat over. So that's the extra deck. The Synchro doesn't really have to be there, so you can play it as like an extra like C slot or extra Link slot, whatever you want. But Baron was very nice just to help solidify the early game. So my side is terrible. I'm not even going to front. I say that in all videos just because I make my side decks like last minute. I don't really like put too much thought into it, but and a lot of my matches and testing, the deck doesn't need any help really going first. It just needs to maximize cards on going second. So that's kind of just what I went with. So I started with 3 Fenrir. You can, just start with Fenrir, get a Fenrir, and like this is just like a clean out to most of the sprite board because you just attack, put it face down, and you know what Fenrir does by now. So we're playing 2 more Nico mains on the side. This was a gimmick that I decided to try because my locals does have about 3 or 4 tier players now. And I figured it'd be really funny if I like added more in, and like when we milled 10, I just bop this, and then like their turn ends essentially. It came up only one time. I did play against 2 tier, and I did beat them both, but only one game was because of Nico Main King, and it was in game 1 when I hit the 1. So 3 Dark Hole because you lose to Ibly. So if you can like Dark Hole the Ibly, and then like they chain IP and Elf to like bring it back, and then you have any normal summonable card in your hand, you can just make a Link 2, and then just keep going. So this effectively clears out the board. It could be Droplet, but Dark Hole I felt like had more utility, just for the fact that like you can also just wipe everything and not really have to abandon resources, because it's very hard to play with this deck. It's a very hard deck to play, and it's very hard to go because of all the people playing like cards like the Bestials. For the trap decks, which I do respect, I am on 3 Lightning and a Duster. Really need to respect the trap decks. This deck still does just lose to Macro and Defissure, but not a lot of people play them. But they're so strong against this, along with just like other floodgates, that you just need to play them. Even like the mid-rangey grindy decks like Sprite, I'd probably side them in if they're not on Nibbly. And then the last card I play is 3 Dark Ruler. These are very nice. You have a lot of issues with the deck where you can't really like side a whole lot of cards because your engine is so tight. But there are like a few things you can slot out. Like you can slot out a Rainbow pretty easily. You can slot out like the Small Worlds, and a Session, just some cards. But like you can't really side a lot. So you really have to pick cards that you want to side specifically for other matchups. And you never want to go past 4. So as an example, for when I'm going against tier, going second, like that's the only matchup where I put 5 in, because I put these in. Because Fenrir is just so good at breaking that board by itself. And then trap decks, you got these. Sprite, you got 1 or 2 of these, depending on the variant. But, there's a lot of ways you can wiggle around if you know what your opponent's playing. Dark World is a deck that I would never take at a big tournament, unfortunately. So, like, it is pretty local, geared toward the local scene on how I put my side deck together. But it never really, like, hurt. Because, like I said, your game 1, like, your main deck is so efficient at going first outside of, like, getting nibbed. But there's like no way to really stop that anyway, so you might as well just maximize all the going second cards. So that is it for the final Dark World deck profile, at least for a little bit. We're going to give the deck a little break. I'm going to move on to other decks for a little bit, just to try them out. We're planning on going to a regional in not in Philadelphia, but about an hour south in Plymouth, so if you're there, come up, say hi. We'll probably be playing Tier Element Kashtira because, best deck went as well. But yeah, if anything drastically changes or we get a ban list that makes this deck really playable, we'll be sure to update it and go from there. But until then, thanks for watching. Thanks for all the support. Thanks, YouTube.